Hey there, I'm Sean with Skyrocket English, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Tuesdays. In one of our previous videos, we discussed basically the wave of tech layoffs in 2024 and the impact that they've had on the industry. Today, we're diving deeper into where laid-off tech employees are flocking and the emerging tech hubs that they're exploring for new opportunities. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell to stay updated on all of our latest content. Let's dive in. All right, so for today, we have two different articles we're going to take a look at. The first one here that I'm showing you, but will actually be the second one we're going to talk about, is from Wired.com, which again, if you have not subscribed to the site, it is $12 US dollars for the entire year. So $1 per month. Great deal. There's tons of great articles on the tech industry and gear and different scientific breakthroughs and things as well. It's a really cool website. Highly recommend it. But their article, Why Tech Workers Are Ditching Big Cities for Boise, is the second article we'll be talking about. But the first article is from CIO.com, the 10 fastest growing US tech hubs for IT talent. This was made almost a year ago in April of 2023, so some of the data may have changed due to the heavy layoffs in 2023, but it's still good to review some of the other cities that are really getting into this tech hiring besides Silicon Valley and the California area. Okay? But before we even get into any of that, let's start off like we normally do by going over some of the key vocabulary that we'll need to understand and that pop up in these articles. First of all, there's the term talent pool, and I've also thrown in the adjective nascent because in the article, in one of the articles, they mention a nascent talent pool, so it's good to know what both of those mean. So a talent pool, first of all, is a collection of potential candidates that help an organization grow and achieve its long-term goals. This is basically where companies can pull their talent from, where they can pull their new hires from. So certain cities that are highly populated like LA or San Francisco, New York, more than likely have a large talent pool, whereas someplace like Boise, Idaho, which we'll talk about later on in this video, might not have as big of a talent pool because they're not as big of a city. Which brings us to the term nascent, which means just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential. So a nascent talent pool would be a talent pool, a collection of candidates that's just coming into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential, like what's happening in Boise, Idaho. Wasn't a big tech hub, and now things are starting to happen, so more and more people are, as we'll find out, starting to move there, and companies have more and more people to choose from for their positions. Then we have the term venture funding, which is a type of financing provided by investors to startup companies and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth potential. So these are how the companies that are brand new starting out, unless they've got all kinds of money set aside already, something that like Elon Musk got money from his dad. If you don't have that, if you don't have a rich dad, usually you have to reach out to investors and then they will, finance your company to start with until you start growing. That's venture funding. Then we have infrastructure, which infrastructure is the basic physical and organizational structures and facilities, e.g. buildings, roads, power supplies, internet connection, other utilities like electricity, water, needed for the operation of a society or enterprise. So nearly every city in the world, major city, has an infrastructure. May not be the best infrastructure, but it's still an infrastructure. Whereas large cities with large populations have better infrastructures. And then our last term, test market. So a particular area or group of people chosen for a limited introduction of a new product or service, new advertising campaign, etc., to test how people will react when it becomes available in more places. Growing up in the state of Ohio, we were a huge test market for lots of fast food. Maybe that's how I became addicted to fast food. I'll blame it on that. But anytime a new sandwich, for example, was coming out in McDonald's, or a new pizza was, being unveiled in Pizza Hut, chances are there was one or two cities in Ohio that would have it first. They would test it to see how are these Ohioans liking the pizza. If they like it, if they'll eat it, then anyone in America will eat it. So they introduce it to one market. If it turns out well, then it goes everywhere. It goes nationwide, or sometimes worldwide. Okay? Now let's jump into the articles themselves. First of all, like I said, the CIO.com article, new tech hotspots. So there's an increasing demand for tech talent across various industries, leading to a rise in tech salaries by 2.3% between 2021 and 2022. Again, this is kind of outdated data, so we don't know. Maybe there has been a decline in salaries since, but a lot of these salary report stuff is coming from last year, so it may still be somewhat relevant. Silicon Valley, which we talked about before with the tech firings, that area in New York. Not New York, California, a whole other side of the country. So in California, Silicon Valley continues to lead in tech salaries with an average of $144,962 per year, but other cities are emerging as growing tech hubs offering competitive salaries. So let's find out more about this. According to the article, salaries vary by location, with the technologists reporting that the highest average salaries of $144,962 per year in Silicon Valley, the original tech hub. So they're still the champions. They're still the ones handing out the most per salary per city. But as the article says, you don't have to live in Silicon Valley to earn a high tech salary. There are several other cities that are considered growing tech hubs where technologists can earn higher than average salaries, often with a lower cost of living. So let's review some of these cities. Let's find out where they are. First of all, we have Phoenix, Arizona, which is in the middle of the desert. I have no idea why people want to live in the middle of a desert, but hey, to each their own. So according to the DICE Tech Salary Report, Phoenix, Tampa, Columbus, Portland, Charlotte, and Miami are among the fastest growing tech hubs with significant increases in average tech salaries. Factors contributing to the growth of these tech hubs include lower operational costs, availability of venture funding, which we talked about, strong social networking scenes, and existing companies seeking talent. Let's find out a little bit more about Phoenix, that picture down there on the lower left-hand side. It actually looks pretty beautiful, but again, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 40-something degrees Celsius, no thank you. Phoenix is home to the Silicon Desert, and it's quickly becoming a hotspot for the tech industry, with a focus on telecommunications, electronics manufacturing, and aerospace. It's also the fifth largest data center market in the nation, with a low natural disaster risk, inexpensive power, and a competitive colocation and cloud market. Phoenix is home to tech companies such as ADP, Workiva, ServiceNow, Traffic Tech, Big Time Software, and General Motors. The average tech salary in Phoenix is $120,732 per year. Not bad. Now let's take a look at Tampa, Florida. So we're talking Florida now, brasileiros. We're talking that place that a lot of you like to go because it's nice and warm, just like Brazil. So let's find out about Tampa. Tampa alone makes 25% of Florida's tech jobs, with more than 50 IT and software companies located in the city, and an additional 2,000 jobs expected to be added in the next coming year, which is this year. Companies such as Amazon, Infosys, IBM, Wipro, Apple, Oracle, Microsoft, Capgemini, I never know how to pronounce that company's name. I apologize for hacking that one up. Uber, Dell, Google, and Salesforce all have offices in Tampa, and the average tech salary in Tampa is $120,900 per year, so just a little bit more than what you'd see in Phoenix. Okay, on to number 3. Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Ohio. All right, where I'm from. Columbus has always held interest for businesses due to the area's diverse population, which has historically made it a popular test market for companies looking to launch new products. See, I told you, the companies love to come to Ohio to test out things. In recent years, it's become a popular spot for the tech industry, with companies such as Facebook and Amazon moving into the city. The city hasn't lost its draw as a place for testing and launching new products either, there's a growing startup community in Columbus. And I will say, compared to other parts of the country, especially those two places that were just named, Phoenix and Tampa, I'm pretty sure Columbus has a lower cost of living. So even though you're only making $107,413 per year, cost of living is less. So it kind of balances out a little bit. Then for number 4, we have Portland, Oregon. Dubbed the Silicon Forest, I'm noticing a silicon theme here amongst some of these cities. Silicon Valley, Silicon Desert, now Silicon Forest. Okay, they got to get inventive with their names here, guys. Dubbed the Silicon Forest, Portland is home to several high-tech companies such as Tektronix, Intel, Pixelworks, Hewlett-Packard, Xerox, and Epson. Other tech companies that have opened offices in Portland include Airbnb, Google, IBM, Amazon, Logitech, Apple, NVIDIA, which we talked about before in a previous video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Oracle and Salesforce, amongst others. And the average tech salary in Portland is $127,734 per year. Looking at the pictures there, it looks pretty nice. Probably do Portland. All right, let's check out number 5. So number 5 is Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte has been hailed as the tech hub of the South with a rich startup community in healthcare, fintech, and logistics. There's some diversity there. There's a strong traction with tech jobs in the financial services industry as banking turns more to digital transformation. Charlotte is home to tech companies such as Red Ventures, Credit Karma, EPAM Systems, Torque Robotics, Axios, Cisco, LendingTree, and AvidXchange. There's high demand for software engineers, web developers, IT support specialists, network administrators, and architects, data scientists, and cybersecurity professionals, according to CompTIA. So yeah, especially the fintech world, if you are trying to get into finance from the IT perspective or software development or web development perspective, cybersecurity, seems like Charlotte's the place to be. The average tech salary in Charlotte is $118,465 per year. Then we have Miami. So Miami, that wonderful place down at the southern tip of Florida. Beautiful beaches, beautiful skies. Maybe this might be your destination. Interest in the city spiked during the pandemic with people trying to escape cold cities and ultimately deciding to stay. So yeah, after the pandemic hit, people were like, you know what? I'm tired of being stuck alone at home in the snowy area where I live in America. I'm going to Miami. And a lot of people have apparently migrated there since, bringing an interest for tech jobs as well. The average tech salary there in Miami is $104,452 per year. Number 7 is Sacramento, California, the capital of California. The city of Sacramento has been dedicated to clean technology and energy since 2005. It is one of the top 10 cities adopting smart grid technology and now holds around 25% of the region's clean energy technology establishments. So if you like green technology, if you like clean energy, Sacramento might be the place for you. It's close to the Bay Area, which is also known as Silicon Valley, so it's close enough away to some of those other big industries like the home base for Google, for example. But it offers a better cost of living and has a growing base of millennial workers, 28%, bolstering the workforce. Sacramento not only has a strong stake in clean technology and energy, but also health sciences, biomedicine, power engineering, education, and the visual arts. The average tech salary in Sacramento is $111,961 per year. Again, not bad. Number 8, Raleigh, North Carolina. Tech companies have set their sights on Raleigh in the past few years, in part thanks to the area's high-powered network infrastructure. So again, I'm more familiar with Charlotte as being this like huge hub of tech companies, especially wrapped around the financial institutions of America. I haven't really heard much about Raleigh, but apparently it is growing. And the average tech salary there is $115,204 per year. Now for the last 2. Boston. Hey, I lived in Massachusetts for almost 10 years. I have to say, Boston was one of my favorite cities to visit. Absolutely love Boston. It gets wicked cold, as they would say, in the winter, but there's just this feel about it, especially in the autumn, in the fall, when all the leaves are changing and that, and, there's New England clam chowder. Oh, it's something you have to experience. So Boston has grown to become a popular tech hub in recent years, with companies such as Amazon, Google, IBM, Microsoft, and Oracle opening offices within the city. There's also a hot market for startups in the city and access to graduates from MIT, Harvard, BU, which is Boston University, Tufts, and Northeastern. So that's one thing I will say as a negative for Boston. Incredibly expensive. However, there is decent public transportation like the T, which is the commuter train that can take you in and out of the city to a couple of different other cities in Massachusetts. You don't have to live directly in Boston to work there. But yeah, you will have competition from all these kids graduating from Harvard and MIT and BU and Tufts. So it could be kind of tough. But the average tech salary in Boston is $130,399 per year. So maybe it's worth it for you. Then we have, last but not least, Seattle, Washington. Seattle was the birthplace of some of the world's largest tech companies such as Microsoft and Amazon. It's now home to the headquarters of companies such as T-Mobile, Expedia, Nintendo of America, and offices for companies such as Twitter, Zendesk, Facebook, and Google. I can't believe they didn't they completely forgot to mention Starbucks. I mean, come on, man. Starbucks. Seattle is the home of Starbucks. It's where Starbucks comes from. But I guess that's just because I like my designer coffee. Anyway, the average tech salary in Seattle is $129,456 per year, right? So you've got 1 through 10. Here they are on a map of the United States, and you'll notice a big majority of them are along some kind of coast. You got all those ones on the West Coast there, with Phoenix being number one there, being in the middle of the desert down in the Southwest. And over on the East Coast, you've got Boston and some of the Carolinas there, and the Florida ones, with Ohio being the outlier. But now we're going to talk about Boise, Idaho, number 11 there on the map. And as you'll see here, where the red dot is, right over here, in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. So why in the world is there a tech hub popping up in Boise, Idaho, and why do people want to live there? Not to knock Boise, I'm sure it's an amazing city. I've just never been anywhere in the Rocky Mountain region that wasn't like a Denver or a Salt Lake City where there's anything really going on. This kind of reminds me of like a Brokeback Mountain ranchers type situation. So call me ignorant, but yeah, I've never really given much mind to any of those states right there in the Rocky Mountain region. So let's find out. Let's see what the big deal is about Boise, Idaho. And this is a picture of Boise, by the way, which you'll notice in the background, the Rocky Mountains. So there has been a trend of young professionals exploring tech roles in non-coastal cities such as Boise, Idaho, amidst layoffs and seeking stability. All right, let's jump into the article now and find out, because I got to figure out why in the world these kids are moving to Boise, of all places. Casey Gavin was dead set on staying in the Seattle area, where she grew up before enrolling at Washington State University. Then a series of internships took her across the country. Interesting. Her first move was to North Dakota, okay. Her second was to Boise, Idaho, where she interned at a semiconductor company, Micron, in 2023. The city was fun and bustling, and people were friendly, Gavin says. Plus, housing was cheap. She says she moved into a subsidized furnished apartment for just around $250 a month. Okay, now I'm starting to see why people might want to move to Boise. I can't even remember when I was living in Ohio and trying to move out with some friends to get our own apartment. I lived in Toledo, Ohio, which isn't the greatest city of all. It's a city, but it wasn't like a Chicago or a New York or anything like that. And my cheapest rent, I believe, I want to say it was around like $550, $650 per month. $250 is a steal, and it's ridiculous. So to continue the article, young people are increasingly exploring roles inland in the US, leaving behind bigger coastal cities while shifting the types of jobs that they seek, according to a new report from Handshake, a career site geared towards students and recent grads in the US. Handshake's report also found that students are moving away from traditionally popular roles like internet and software companies and increasingly applying roles in government, hardware, semiconductor companies, and manufacturing. If you remember, if you saw my video when we discussed the tech layoffs, there was that big percentage of the people who are no longer unemployed, not because they found another job for another Google or a Meta, but because they ended up going to different industries. So they went to go work for the government. They went to go work for semiconductor companies. They went to go work in finance, but as a tech specialist, which is pretty cool. So these kind of jobs are popping up all across the country, and they're not just localized in Silicon Valley. And for $250 a month for rent, I mean, come on, why wouldn't you want to go? Okay. Boise, among the most isolated cities in the U.S., is nearly 5 hours from Salt Lake City and 7 from Portland, Oregon. Okay, so that's kind of a bit of a drive to any other major city. But it has become a home to a growing tech boom over the past decade. Micron is building a $15 billion manufacturing facility expected to open in 2025 there, and 2 homegrown companies have been acquired by big names. So Count by Equifax in 2021 and T-Sheets by Intuit in 2017. With more affordable living costs, Boise is drawing tech workers who want a blend of nature, city life, and work-life balance alongside stability and opportunity. And one thing I've noticed from this article, the theme that keeps coming up over and over again is stability. It looks like a lot of these people are choosing to move to other parts of the country because it's more stable. With the uncertainty of the tech layoffs, they want to find a place where not only will they be able to find a decent paying job, but they can afford to live there too. I mean, Silicon Valley, the prices in the Bay Area and San Francisco are just outrageous for an apartment. Forget about it. So young professionals disillusioned by layoffs in the tech industry are increasingly turning to cities like Boise for tech roles and a better work-life balance. The past year has brought a reckoning in the tech job industry across the U.S., upending career trajectories for recent grads. When they chose majors like computer science 4 years ago, they expected to follow those before them into a lucrative market with perks at big tech companies like Meta, Amazon, and others, we just talked about. But instead, they've been met with hiring freezes and massive layoffs across the industry that have forced pivots. There's so much opportunity in Boise because the area's nascent talent pool. Here we go. What do we say a nascent talent pool was? It's a just beginning developing system or organization or group of people, professionals that a company can choose from. There's the area's nascent talent pool. It hasn't caught up to meet the tech industry's demands. That has led to the in-migration, not emigration or immigration, but immigration moving inward into the country. But the city's unusually friendly nature and smaller industry also help boost young careers. If you come to Boise, you can very quickly kind of accelerate yourself into career advancing moves. So you've got the potential to get a promotion, to move up the chain. Sounding good again. In the wake of some 400,000 tech layoffs between 2022 and 2023, which again, we talked about in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Young people are looking for new types of work. More than 40% of job applications submitted by tech majors on Handshake went to internet and software companies in 2021, but that number fell to 25% by September of 2023. In the same time, applications to government jobs doubled. Handshake also found that women in tech-related majors were more likely than men to submit applications to roles in finance, management, consulting, government, education, healthcare, and research companies, while men are more likely to apply for internet and software companies. So the men are still trying to pursue those old Google, Meta, Facebook route, whereas the women are open to more opportunities. So good on you, women. Boise's startup culture, quality of life, and outdoor recreational opportunities make it an appealing destination for tech workers looking for stability and opportunity. So some of the Boise boom will continue to be driven by Micron, that company we talked about a few slides ago, which employs around 5,400 people in Boise. Its expansion is expected to create 17,000 jobs, with 2,000 of those directly at Micron by 2030. But there's a startup and entrepreneurial culture driving growth too. A Boise chef won a James Beard Award in 2023. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm assuming it's some kind of culinary arts award. So good cooking there. The city has an annual music festival with dozens of artists. There's nearby skiing and hiking. Okay, so decent culture. A one-bedroom apartment rents for an average of $1,300 a month. Wait a minute, what happened to the $250 a month for the subsidized place? Well, $1,300 for a one-bedroom. All right. You can afford to have the lifestyle you dreamed about really easily here. Let's find out some more. However, Boise faces challenges like housing affordability and infrastructure strain as it grapples with rapid growth and an influx of tech talent seeking opportunities in the city. But as the tech industry simmers, the city is feeling the strain. Housing prices in Boise have jumped by more than 50% since 2019. To be fair, though, I feel like that's an issue across the entire United States. Maybe they can blame it on tech workers coming, but I just feel like the housing market right now in the United States is just garbage, regardless of where you're looking to buy a house. Not a good time to buy. The city is investing $340 million to make its downtown more walkable, and also announced plans to redevelop hundreds of affordable housing units last year. But it will need to build around 2,700 new housing units each year to keep up with demand. Okay, so they've got a lot of people wanting to move there. Labor experts say that the dust from tech layoffs is starting to settle, but Gen Z is focused on stability. So there we go, the new generation that's up and coming, they're looking for something more stable. When you're thinking about stability, and when you see headlines about layoffs that doesn't read stability, anyway, let me reread that again. When you're thinking about stability and then you see headlines about layoffs, that doesn't read stability. Okay. So in the front of their mind, they've got this idea that they just need something stable. They don't care about the prestige of the job. They don't care that if they're working for a Google or an Amazon. They just want to make sure at the end of the day they have a stable future. The move to more affordable non-coastal cities in the U.S. is appealing for a generation that has watched millennials struggle under student loan debt and rising housing costs. Fair enough. I happen to be one of those millennials under student loan debt, and well, I'm not in America anymore, so I don't have to worry about the rising housing costs, but yeah, I totally sympathize there. So, all right, Gen Z, you do what you got to do. So that'll wrap up our discussion of these two articles. We've talked about some cities in the United States that are more lucrative for tech workers to check into besides Silicon Valley. But then there's Boise, Idaho. What do you think? This place in the middle of the mountains, kind of far away from other major cities, just on its own, chugging along, providing tech jobs to new people who want to come in and move to the city and make a future for themselves. Sound like a good opportunity to you? What do you think? And there you have it, folks. We've explored the shifting landscape of tech jobs in the US, from the rising tech hubs to the migration of tech professionals to cities like Boise. Now let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on the state of tech jobs in the US? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, thanks for watching, and see you next time on Tech Tuesdays with Skyrocket English. And don't forget to click on one of the other videos on the screen to catch up on any previous episodes you may have missed.